Hey YouTube, what's up? Nate here again. Today I wanted to talk about Animal Crossing New Horizons and how I feel the game has really panned out now that we've had time to really sit and let it brew and process. Before I do that though, I do want to establish that I didn't get Animal Crossing on its initial release in the US. I got it when it was released as a player's choice title, and I have some really fond memories playing that game. I was subscribed to a magazine called Tips and Tricks magazine that I really liked. They had a section of their magazine every month that was called the Animal Crossing Almanac that talked about things to do for the month and had its own original patterns and went in detail about rumors and things you could find in the game. That's actually how I found out about Wisp growing up. I knew a lot about Animal Crossing before I'd even played it, which made it incredibly alluring to me. I played Wild World and I got a DS for the sole reason of playing Animal Crossing. I really liked that. Did a lot of sleepovers with friends and stuff on over the Wi-Fi connection. I was a huge fan of New Leaf, and I thought that that game was a huge step in the right direction in general. I think that's probably the best game futures wise for Animal Crossing and sets the standard for what we could expect for Animal Crossing. I remember when the trailer for New Horizons dropped and I just remember feeling this huge excitement. Unlike most games I get excited for, the only things that really are close to it are like Metroid Dread and Prime 4. Someday that'll come out, right? So with all that being said, I just wanted to establish my own relationship with Animal Crossing, that I've been a fan since the original title came out in the US. I do really enjoy the series and kind of what it stands for, as it's done a lot for me personally, which is really funny to say. So now with all that out of the way, let me go ahead and talk about New Horizons in general. There are a lot of interesting things that came as a part of New Horizons releasing with its crafting mechanics and repurposing of things, which I feel does feed into a really great game loop. I do really enjoy the mechanics of that. However, that's really interesting because I don't want to say that it doesn't redefine Animal Crossing. It just adds a little bit more practicality to a lot of things you would find in Animal Crossing, like garbage or weeds, where you can actually make something out of it. So I can't say that it doesn't add more to it, but it just doesn't feel really significant. I feel like I'm playing like an HD. This is really weird for me to say, but I almost said that New Horizons is a HD New Leaf, but it's really not. I feel like there were things missing in that from day one that still haven't really been added from New Leaf. I personally felt that there was a lot of love put into New Leaf and a lot of fan service, but not in the egregious way, just ways to please previously established fans such as myself, where the RV stuff they added with the Welcome Amiibo update, there's the conversations that you had with villagers, there was an ongoing story with a lot of them. It felt like, I don't really think that's true, but it's just the way it was written and just the amount of options you would get when you'd ping a villager and they'd walk up to you and tell you something. Of course, a lot of that's randomly generated, but there was just so much dialogue in there that it felt like things weren't really repeating themselves, where in New Horizons I feel like a lot of the dialogue was very much, there's maybe 5 things they say and some of those words are replaced with a random adjective and verb generator. I did notice that in previous entries, but not to the extent I see it in New Horizons. I think one of the fundamental things about Animal Crossing that I really like is that sense of community you get, even though they are NPCs, right? I think that tagline of the GameCube version really does speak for itself, where this town keeps living whether you're there or not and time keeps moving. I don't really feel like that's the case anymore with New Horizons, and I feel like some of that has to do with wanting so much control, or to give the player so much control. To some extent I do agree, because I really did like what New Leaf did with a lot of the public works projects, and I just feel like a lot of that cool stuff from New Leaf is missing. And yeah, you can just lay furniture anywhere. It's crazy to think that it wasn't like that before, now looking back at the older games, but at the same time, I don't know if the trade-off was worth it in terms of New Horizons to New Leaf and previous entries. There are public works projects in the town hall, but they don't, I hate saying it because it just feels like a cop-out. They just they don't feel the same to me. They don't feel very cohesive the way New Leaf did. There's just something about it, just New Horizons felt rushed kind of no matter what. And then there was this promise of more content to come. There was the promise of new content. There was the actual content we got, which was the Happy Home Paradise, I believe, or I don't even remember, because it was literally the Happy Home Academy brought into the Switch version, and that's pretty lackluster as well. What do you get from it, right? Is just more things. You polish furniture and it has stuff over it. You can overlay stuff onto it. There's the walls you can add, and I think that was a really good step in a good direction, but it just feels like, what else is there? And what's interesting is I was going to record an island tour last week, and I sat there and stared at the bed for Luna to actually do a dream address, and I was like, I don't really want to do this. What else is there to say about Animal Crossing? And I was really bummed out to say that because in like a huge save file, I played it every day for like 20 minutes, and I look at New Horizons, and I mean, this is maybe more of a hardware issue, but I think it still stems in that I sat there and waited to start my game for like 3 or 4 minutes of just dialogue loading. It was unbelievable, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to sensationalize how I feel about this. All this is pretty raw and pretty off the cuff. I just think that the lack of substantial additions to New Horizons and I think the lack of care and the lack of heart that is very prevalent in all the other Animal Crossing games. It's very obvious in this game. All the special characters don't really have anything interesting to say. They just feel like caricatures at this point. A lot of the villager personalities don't really come out the way they used to. I felt like there were like certain parameters in other villagers that could be a little bit of a normal villager, a little bit snooty, and so on. Like there's certain people who are jocks, but also like, I don't know, it just felt very incredibly varied. And I can't really say that about the other update they added was like the deep sea diving. I was talking to my fiance about it because she's never played any of the previous games. New Horizons is her first one. And she was like, why did they add this? Like, what is deep sea boring? And she's like, I don't even want to dive out in the ocean. I mean, when do you think we're going to hear anything else about Animal Crossing? Are we waiting for another console and then it'll get delayed again as well? Another thing I really think about is the multiplayer. It doesn't really offer anything. I think I've used multiplayer and like went to other people's villages or islands, went to other people's islands. I think I can count on one hand maybe 3 or 4 times, and that's it. And I was like, why would I do this? You just talk on anything. And I mean, yeah, you could have done that before, but it just doesn't feel intuitive. Like there's no Tortimer Island, there's no activities. I think a lack of character development in the way that the New Leaf and more specifically GameCube had just makes everything feel so shallow. But oftentimes I just feel like, what are we even doing? Are we just playing like an up-res version of what we've played before? The thing that really puzzles me as well is the calendar in New Horizons. There's just like, what special events are there? I talked about the Animal Crossing Almanac I had read in a magazine, and it just didn't feel as exciting as that did. That's not even because I was a kid. I felt excited for holidays in New Leaf and in Wild World, so it's not like that was really a thing either. The other thing are like the special characters like Wendell, Gracie, Kix, Leaf. Again, it just feels so shallow, and I just think it's really disappointing that a game came out like this, and it's a beloved game that I thought I got a lot of value out of New Horizons. Still, I have like 200 plus hours in it, all the Dream Island content, but it just feels like a step in the wrong direction. It doesn't feel like a step at all. Even I don't really think a game needs to take a risk, but it just felt like such a safe thing to do was make New Horizons the way that it came out. I just feel like there's so much you could add to it with expansions, a cooking expansion, more farming stuff than the crops. Because then what do you do with the crops? I think things need to get elaborated on. Make a $10 cooking DLC with its own little gameplay. One of my favorite things from New Leaf, funnily enough, is the Island Escape. I think that's so freaking fun. And that was from Amiibo Festival, and people hate that game, but everybody can agree. If people say they don't like it, I don't think they've actually played the actual game. They will just say, oh, it's from Amiibo Festival, so it sucks. Take that what you will. But I think it is also important to maybe talk about my own biases, because while I do feel the way I do, while it is crucial that I am expressing myself the way that I want to, I also think it's crucial to discuss my flaws, maybe in my logic or other ways of thinking. The first thing I thought of, because I had recorded a couple other takes of this, kind of went on more and more about the past, and I kind of realized some of that is nostalgia. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, it's not nostalgia. This game just sucks, because that's probably not true. I think there's something more alluring when you understand less things about game design, you understand less about the limitations of things. And when you're a kid, like that stuff feels so authentic, and it feels weird to like not feel that way anymore. So maybe that's just a result of me just growing up, getting older. The other thing I was thinking about was, what do you add? What do you add to Animal Crossing? Obviously, it's taken from like the Minecraft survival craft type of thing where everything kind of has a purpose, and it is really cool to just have that available to you. But then you think about things like tools, how things break. It just reminds me of that Breath of the Wild problem a lot of people seem to have. That's a big thing I didn't like about Breath of the Wild. Maybe I'm not the right person to be discussing that. Maybe I just have biases towards like single purpose items that fulfill it and that's it. I think it's really important to discuss the fact that I'm probably biased because of my own perception of Animal Crossing as a series and what I think it should be, and that's probably different from what some of you think it should be. I think another flaw in what I'm saying is that the Animal Crossing studio also develops Splatoon 3, so they're constantly doing things with that, and there have been updates for that as time has gone on, and there are Splatfests, and I'm sure they're working on their next big thing they're gonna announce. Nintendo EPD does do a lot of different work. It may not just be up there in priority, or they probably couldn't work as hard as they wanted to because of COVID, and they still had to release a game because they had already delayed it a few times, I believe, maybe once or twice, and they wanted to make sure things were smooth. But EPD, I think, does Pikmin 4, so that could be why Splatoon hasn't seen things recently as well. Again, what do you really add to Animal Crossing? I'm kind of drawing a blank, to be honest with you. So I mean, that's something I personally feel, and I would really like to know what you think. I'm just really interested in everybody's opinions. That's all I really have to say about Animal Crossing, though. Kind of just sat here and rambled, so I really hope you've enjoyed it. You can feel free to subscribe to my channel, leave a comment. Again, please voice your opinions. I'd really like to know what you'd like to see in Animal Crossing, or where you think it went wrong, or if you think I'm wrong. I'd really like to know if you think I'm wrong. I've been feeling like weird about making content, and I want to do things like authentically, and while also considering time. I always do this at the end of these videos. What's wrong with me? But feel free to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I guess it's X now, right? Kind of want to do more talking stuff, so I'll probably cover news and stuff as it comes out. That's all I really have, though, so with that, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for sitting here if you've sat here the whole time. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next video at some point. Bye for now. Take care.